We are going right on into our sixth show tonight. And I want to welcome back all the Beach Brothers show viewers. This is part two of the doubleheader. Tonight we're doing two shows so we can double the exposure of VP candidates before Election Day. I'm Conrad Chesviner, running for Rose Hall seat on Virginia Beach City Council. I want fixed flooding, a rapid bus transit system, development that isn't so focused on tourism and is more focused on affordable living, better social justice, and reduced gun violence. The Virginia Beach Democratic Committee likes those ideas too and recommends me for your November vote. Remember, you all can early vote at the Virginia Beach Registrar's office, and beginning on October 19th, more locations will open up at the Bayside Rec Center, the Great Neck Rec Center, SeaTac Rec Center, and the Kimsville Treasurer's office. And another name you'll see on your Virginia Beach ballot is our second guest tonight. It's Nadine Paniccia, candidate for at-large seat on Virginia Beach City Council. She's a businesswoman and a 34-year-long Virginia Beach resident. Her son went to VMI and is a Virginia Beach City public school teacher. She serves on the Vibe Creative District Board. She serves on the Back Bay Restoration Foundation. The Beach Brothers are happy to bring her on to discuss Virginia Beach politics and her campaign for office. So, Ms. Paniccia, thanks for coming on. Paniccia, sorry. We'd like to begin by asking you, why run for City Council in 2020?
The reason that I decided to run is due to my work with the Back Bay Restoration Foundation mostly. When I learned how fragile our coastal city truly is to the impacts of Mother Nature. And diving into work with them, I learned also that our city is not helping us fight or protect ourselves from those ravages of Mother Nature the way it should. And I got very involved and realized after Hurricane Matthew that we had some work to do. And I just decided that I was going to step in, jump on in.
Unmute myself here.
Okay.
Unmute. The Beach Brothers is both a business and politics show. Can you highlight a little bit about your history with sales and marketing?
I can. I started out, I'm an avid music lover. And I have a public relations and journalism and English degree and graduated with a degree from Syracuse University and got my first job in Boston at a commercial classical music station and learned how to sell advertising to help businesses grow in that city. And then got obsessed with media, moved down here and got immediately involved in radio advertising and have been in that ever since. Started my own company that sold sponsorships. It was the first agency of its kind in the region that actually sold commercial sponsorships to venues and events. And I actually named the amphitheater, the GTE Virginia Beach Amphitheater, when it was built. That was one of my claims to fame. And then the Intellis Pavilion, I also named that. And worked with the ECSC and the American Music Festival and got very involved in all of that. And then got out of radio, and a girlfriend of mine asked me to help her with her industry at the Oceanfront, her resort group. She needed help turning her sales department around, and I just jumped on that and helped her do that. And all these years later, sales and marketing's been my history.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, my leading issue in my own race is flooding.
Yes.
I'd like significant effort by myself and the rest of council towards securing billions in supplemental flooding funding for both Richmond and DC, and excuse the jet. You have a unique view on this, while serving on the Back Bay Restoration Board, helping to know the dynamics of the southern watershed. So the Beach Brothers show viewers would like you to sort of unpack your take on flooding and sea level rise.
So I think the very first thing we all have to do is admit that it exists. And some people don't want to call it sea level rise for whatever reason. But the reality is that, I almost think of our coastal city, and I don't want to sound dramatic, but I'm going to throw it out there. We're kind of like the Titanic, and we just keep cleaning off the deck, moving the chairs around, and we are surrounded by water. And I need to get the exact article that I read, but it was really poignant that we're the 12th most fragile coastal city in the country. And every area of the city faces a different challenge. So the Back Bay watershed, the southern watersheds face southern winds, which would have been fine if the environment in the Back Bay had stayed natural. But what's happened is the infrastructure and the overdevelopment out there colliding with the southern winds, pulling the Pamlico into the Back Bay, into the landmass, with nowhere for the water to go now. So we have flooding. And other areas of our city have subsidence, where the coast is literally eroding away, right? So we have all different challenges throughout our city that we have to focus on in order to protect the homeowners and just residents. Like, I view flooding as public enemy number one right now. I view that as affecting more people in our city than any other challenge that we have that could hurt us.
Let's sort of roll in here to the greatest topic of 2020, that's COVID-19.
Right. That can hurt.
It wrecked the nation's economy.
Yeah.
It's certainly doing a number here in Virginia Beach. Now,
Yeah.
with yourself on city council, do you have any ideas you would like to champion as a way to help the city recover?
Well, I've discussed this in a couple interviews, the newspaper and even the Princess Anne Indy. I think that it's time for us to extend. We do a lot of public-private partnerships, and I'm not a big fan generally of some of them that we've done. Some have been very successful and have paid off for the whole community. Like the amphitheater, I believe, and not just because I was involved, I believe that it's the gift that keeps giving. People go to see shows. It's a wonderful venue for our community. I believe that we have an opportunity to create an umbrella opportunity for businesses to get back on track, for new business development, to make Virginia Beach a more friendly, easier place for businesses to do business. Whether we create an opportunity where we reduce entertainment tax and other taxes on small business for a specified period of time until they get off their feet. We have an opportunity to create a public-private umbrella partnership to rebuild the backbone of our city, which is vital. If we don't rebuild small business, we're gonna tread water for literally for a very long time.
As I go to unmute myself yet again. Now, our Virginia Beach economy stands on sort of three distinct stool legs, if you will.
Yep.
Tourism, the military, agriculture. I look forward to a day where we reduce our dependence on development that is based on tourism. But what are your views on those three legs, and do we need a fourth leg?
Oh, absolutely. And so I believe that we need to fortify what we currently have, because it served us well over the course of decades. I do think that we have the opportunity as a fragile coastal city, to create green engineering and energy solutions right here at home. We have so many young people going to college for environmental engineering and all things that we need here. The youth are very tuned in to our environment, into the reality that they are saddled with the decisions that we make, right? They are moving to places like Colorado and other places that have that industry. We have the opportunity, if we just change our paradigm in our minds and shift our focus, we can create We can be the leader in sustainable developments, green energy solutions, green infrastructure solutions, green engineering solutions. We could be that place where people want to come and work and create. So I believe that could be our fourth industry.
Waiting for Seko to jump in here.
Go ahead.
Yep, I'm going to go ahead and read our Summer Lane viewer question.
Yep.
What is your stance on the Nemo Parkway extension to Sandbridge? We need a safe road in and out of the area that creates lots of money for this city. It's dangerous, and residents and tourists can get cut off from emergency assistance when the road is closed.
Summer, I think Summer and I messaged back and forth at one point. I am all for a safe solution for Sandbridge. And from what I understand, and I did do some research on this, I think it's 7B or 7A. I don't know which is first. I think 7B. There's a whole series of environmental studies, I believe, that will be held in the winter months. And this was from a Barbara Henley seminar that I went to, or a civic meeting she had. So I'm using that information that will be finalized, and then they'll just start development on Nemo, I believe. Nemo 7B, or Nemo now is if what they call it. So I am all for it. I have friends who live in Sandbridge, and I know how dangerous Sandbridge Road is. My only concern about Nemo, and it's my same concern about Back Bay, is we don't want to overdevelop that any more than it is, and I worry that having that entrance and exit into Sandbridge is just going to create more traffic for them. But I'm certain that the benefits are going to outweigh any negatives that might exist with Nemo now. I'm absolutely supportive.
All righty. Well, a large part of my own campaign sort of hinges on joining the efforts as a councilman to address social issues.
Right.
2020 has had many demonstrations on this matter. By you joining council as well, what issues would you like to sort of shine a light on and help fix as a councilwoman?
So I say this to folks because I do believe this to be true, that social issues include environmental justice. And environmental justice is our overarching, everyday, and quality of life issue that people just kind of don't associate with a social justice issue. But when you have 70% of the low income housing, for example, is around polluted areas, meaning loud areas or dump sites or waste pits, none of that is healthy for the people that live there. And I think that what we need to do is refocus and replan our neighborhoods so that when we do develop, we create affordable housing from the get-go, so that we have opportunities for folks to live in these single family neighborhoods from the get-go. It's not the way most cities were designed, sadly. And I believe green space is vital for people. And COVID has taught us that. COVID has taught us that nature heals. And so when the doctors all said, get outside, get fresh air, all I could think about are some of these young people and older folks that live in areas that are not safe for them to just go get outside, or it's not green space. It's just not conducive. And I believe social justice, in my case, what I can impact the most is environmental justice issues. You there?
I'm here. Just I think I'll roll into the next one. Now, Virginia Beach's election system has names for districts, but they're sort of chosen at large. Example, me running for Rose Hall, but the entire city of Virginia Beach can vote for that. This year, council declined on a 5-6 vote to put this before the citizens on a 2020 ballot. We'd like to know if you, future councilwoman, would like to address this issue starting over again in 2021, and if you do, why would you?
You know, this one, I have done the whole like legal pad with the pros and cons, and I just keep going back and forth with the pros and cons. Apparently, our hybrid system is one of only 2 in the country that is like this, like the one we have. And so I kind of like the idea from a citizen perspective that every single council person is responsible for every decision that's made. Right? Every single one of them is responsible for the decisions that are made. If we go to a ward system or a district system, ward system, I'm concerned that we're going to have more stonewalling, more fiefdoms on council. That said, I am not opposed if the public, if the citizens want that, that's something that I would, if this is what the citizens want, this is what I would want. But I would rather see at least part of the discussion be term limits, okay, and campaign finance reform on a local level. And I honestly, I'm researching this now. I don't know how to get that done. I don't know if it can be done. But when you have folks raising 6 figures for a $27,000, $30,000 a year job, I have to scratch my head and go, okay, what's really in it for them? Like, why are they doing this? And so I think that it leads to an uneven playing field if you have very wealthy people or people with means or people that are bought and paid for that end up on council because they owe people money or they owe them favors for the contributions. That's also problematic. So I don't know what the best way to do this is, and I think the public needs to tell us what they want. Because as a person campaigning, Conrad, you're in the same boat I'm in, right? We are at large, basically. We're all at large. We need to have big piles of money to compete or we don't make it, right? So if we were able to get campaign finance saying, oh, we all make $27,000 to $30,000 a year, that's all you can raise. Figure out how to do this with $27,000 to $30,000 a year. That levels that playing field across the board, whether you're in a ward or an at-large system. I just don't know if it's legal. I'm researching it right now, but I believe that term limits and campaign finance reform are the 2 areas that would level the playing field way before ward or hybrid.
Because remember, in our races, there isn't really a limit that anyone could to do that.
No.
See multiple organizations on multiple campaigns that spend tens of thousands per donation, which if you compare that to the federal races, that's a limit of about $2,800 that you could give to an individual campaign. So you're right on the money.
I guess.
No, I mean, that's interesting. We've heard people talk about primarily the at-large or the ward system, but to bring in those other factors, that's intriguing.
That's why I don't always agree with what city council decides, but the only reason I decided with them putting this off, like putting Jessica's referendum off, is that it was missing term limits and it was missing campaign finance reform in my mind, right? Like if we're going to go for it, let's go for it. Let's put the whole thing out there, And I thought because we're going to go back to it because that system is not going to be perfect. That other system won't be perfect. It's the playing field will not be level. It will never be level. You will have to sell your soul to people contributing to your campaign, which I won't do. Or sell your soul, and I always say this, to a party to support your campaign. And we're seeing more involvement from parties in our elections, which is also a frightening thing to me because we'll lose control. We will lose control of our city. if we allow outside monies to buy seats, my opinion. And I just think before we throw a referendum out there, we need to think it through.
Interesting. I was disappointed that the city council made their decision.
I know.
Yeah. But that's
I was disappointed, but I also was in the back of my head going, but wait, I want this added in and this added in. Like, if we're going to throw it out there, I want these things added in.
intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, let's go back to another topic that you'd be very, very concerned about. Virginia Beach instituted the Green Line in 1979 to keep development in the northern half of the city. In doing so, parts of the city might not have some basic utilities, and even the Agricultural Reserve Program exists to keep a lid on the development south of the Green Line. Can we hear about your general vision regarding the agricultural sector of our economy and how we regulate development on that matter?
So there's two issues here. So we've all determined that we have three major industry in Virginia Beach, and we've had these three since I've lived here for 34 years, and it probably precedes me, right? We've had agriculture, military, and tourism, and we've relied on that. We've kind of rested on our laurels, in my opinion, and not really done the due diligence to, there was talk about doing a health. I think Mayor Sessoms in his day was doing this whole, health thing, and that would have been the fourth leg of the tourism industry. But I believe that we cannot afford, until we have some direction, we cannot afford to mitigate or lessen our current industries, and that includes agriculture. And the Green Line was put in place to protect agriculture. But as time goes on, we realize that it's not just agriculture. Back Bay and the southern watersheds cannot accommodate development. So not only does the ARP protect agriculture, it protects the natural environment that exists in Back Bay. And, I always bring up Asheville Park. There's so many challenges with it. And the people that live there, I feel for them because they bought that honestly. They bought into that neighborhood honestly. But the reality is that it's not unusual back there to build and then have flooding issues, because the water table in the southern watershed is so incredibly high. So it doesn't take a lot of moisture and water to flood it out. And so I think it's a twofold thing. I want to protect the integrity of the ARP and the agricultural industry, but I also understand completely that the area itself can't handle the development. There is nowhere for that water to go unless we put a pipeline to the Atlantic Ocean, which will cost, you want to talk about, billions? I don't even know what it would cost to do that. And then there's all this whole other argument of, well, if we do that, then there's a chance that the water will turn salt water. And then we have this whole other conversation about Back Bay. But the reality exists that the nature, the land itself can't handle the development. And for whatever reason, developers are hell-bent on building back there. And I don't think it's responsible. All of the stormwater from Dam Neck down flows into Back Bay. All of it. And people don't realize that. So all of the development, General Booth, Dam Neck, all of that development flows down and puts pressure on Back Bay. So when the south wind blows, all of that plus the Pamlico blows back in. So when it blows back in and you have all of the cement and impervious surface, there is nowhere for the water to go. So it's not as easy. It's interesting, and that is a unique area of our city. It makes up 60% of our land mass of Virginia Beach, and there's a reason. It is a natural mitigator for our city, and if we keep it and preserve it, we're going to have less flooding issues everywhere else in the city, or at least from General Booth and Dam Neck down. But everything backs up. I mean, I don't think people really fully understand the science. It's kind of boring.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
All right, yeah, you've done your research. I really appreciate that. I appreciate that. So we have a viewer question from Andrew Broyles. So he's been talking about this. What was this? Phase 5 Shore Drive has been on the book since 1998.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so can you get it done? That's
I'm looking at the question. Forgive me, Andrew. So phase 4 Shore Drive has been on the books since 1998. Will you get this project done and give Ocean Park a safe roadway, sidewalks, lighting? You know what? The Shore Drive is an abused neighborhood as far as I can see. I mean, we have just allowed a 22-story building in a residential neighborhood on Shore Drive. We at Westminster, right?
right.
We have broken every ordinance that was in existence to accommodate this 22-story senior living center, which I know seniors need places and I am all for that, but 22 stories may not after COVID be the right idea, right? It might have been great pre-COVID, but so Shore Drive needs, Ocean Park, that whole area needs to be more pedestrian, and because the traffic is so horrific, that those neighborhoods need to be lighted. Those folks are all on top of one another. It's unsafe. And I would focus on straightening out the whole corridor. And I would absolutely not have approved that Westminster vote. Absolutely not. And not because I don't believe seniors need a place to live, but, and I'm going there because it's all very connected. That was spot zoning, and spot zoning is no way to plan a city. And Shore Drive has challenges with flooding. It has challenges with traffic. We just came out of COVID. They're saying don't be on top of one another. People need to be outside, and we're putting senior citizens in 22 floors. And I know Westminster is a fabulous company and they do a great business, but the reality is that we negotiated as a city and we said, here, take all of these givings. We're gonna not have this ordinance. We're gonna give that to you. We didn't negotiate. At least negotiate 20% affordable housing for seniors that cannot afford $800 to $1 million to stay. There has to be some give and take. So I was that vote. I was very unhappy with that vote. Obviously.
I will admit that I think that was actually part of our next question, was regarding Westminster Canterbury project on Shore Drive itself. If I recall from attending the Ocean Park Civic League last year, when Mr. Broyles was president of that Phase 4 had a lot to do with certain roadway redesigning in that area, and whether or not it had been delayed, and he really would like us as city council members to help usher that forward. So, yeah, if you have any more thoughts regarding Westminster Canterbury, we could drop into it, because that was going to be our next question.
I'm sorry.
Development.
His question led into this. I just think that that we don't really clearly have a vision, right? Because if we did, we wouldn't spot zone. And I think it's a dangerous precedent. So now we've spot zoned. Now we have to work around it. So now we probably have to redesign the roads. We have to accommodate what we promised these folks that are going to be living there. So I think we're working backwards, and that's why I'm against the whole spot zoning thing. I believe that if you're going to spot zone, if you know you're going to consider something, change the ordinance. Vote on a vision that includes changing of the ordinance before you set a precedent, right? Because 1% of the population follows the rules. That residential neighborhood, those folks living there follow the rules. They can't add an inch of shed. They can't add a space of driveway without getting permission. Yet, if you hire the right law firm and you have the right money behind you and you have the right folks that have a vested interest or a stakeholder, somehow you're going to get what you want. And it's again, a very unlevel playing field. And it's not equitable for the citizens, in my opinion. It isn't.
Well, it looks to me like you had a lot more to say.
Yeah, I always do. It's sad.
All right, well, let's move to the Wolf Brother project,
Okay.
which the city also approved. That approved conditional use permit for an event venue on land used for agriculture. So, do you believe non-farming businesses should be allowed to operate on agriculturally zoned land?
So here's what I believe. Once again, if we're going to entertain options that lie outside of our ordinances, then we have to change the ordinance first. Because in Back Bay, in an ARP area where the ARP program was designed to protect the ag land from commercial development, okay, we've spent millions of dollars on this over the years. We go and give someone an immediate special permit. What that does to other folks in Back Bay who have land that they would want to do something else on. We want to do merry-go-round. I don't know. They want to do something.
Yeah, XYZ. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter what they want to do, but they're zoned AG. They now have opened the door to that to happen consistently in Back Bay. So now they have to go back and figure out how they make that the one exception. Because if you keep doing that in Back Bay, they're building a 5,000 square foot, from what I understand, structure, which is impervious surface is added. Could you imagine duplicating that 20 times back there? This is past the green line. We already moved the green line. So we're going to, right. So we've already moved it once. This is past it. So how far are we going to allow this to go? So my point is, if we're going to entertain things, we need to have the vision first. We don't need to do special exceptions. We need to set the vision first so that everybody knows the playing field.
Were those concerns ever raised?
Yes.
I don't.
It was denied the first time in planning. They said no. Planning denied this once. And apparently, this is what I understand. Planning said no. They denied it. And apparently, they did not advertise the planning meeting correctly. If I'm not mistaken, there was a loophole, not a loophole. They failed to advertise that correctly. It became a loophole to revisit the vote. So between the time planning said no, the lawyer and all the folks with that particular business had the opportunity to create a case and come back to council with 60 people, or however many, I'm exaggerating, however many, saying how fantastic this is. Now, we at Back Bay Restoration Foundation, not we, but some of the folks in Back Bay, they thought this was a done deal the first time, the go round. It's done, right? So they didn't even know this was being revisited, or we certainly would have been more vocal on the outset and been there. But this thing happened at 1 o'clock in the morning or 11 p.m. I can't even remember when the vote took place, but it was like late in the night, and that was unusual. That's COVID related. I don't think that is the way we do business, but it just happened to be an overnight kind of thing. And but I just really feel it's irresponsible, and we should not be creating our city that way. We should not be. That's not a vision. That's a reaction.
Ooh, interesting. You really do the research. She does the research. She has, as we say, she has the receipts. They'll
probably do fact checking. Ding, 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 ding.
Wow.
Now, if I recall, that was an 8-3 vote, and I don't believe really so much, nasty, dirty politics. So because of that, I want to give a hat tip to my opponent because he was one of the three who voted against it. So I do want to give him that hat tip there. I also would like to sort of branch out a little bit. This wasn't one of our scripted questions, but I'd like to go forth with your membership with the Vibe District board. because I work down at the oceanfront, down on 24th Street. So it's 5 or so blocks away from the Vibe District. And we have a collective interest, you and I, in how the oceanfront may look. And so I would also like you to sort of just talk about the Vibe District Board, and if you could, bring in how we might want to go forth with Rudy plans in the years ahead, because there is a big section of the city that doesn't want it touched at all.
I understand. So Conrad, you and I both worked out at the oceanfront. So the key with Vibe District in my mind is it's I'm on the board later. They created that before I was blessed to be there to see more growth. But I believe the vision was an excellent one. They took an area of the city that was ignored and run down for all intents and purposes, and created from it without developing, right? Created from it without developing a beautifully diverse, culturally diverse and pedestrian area that could be duplicated throughout the city. Like we talk about traffic and we talk about all these things, and we could basically look at that as an example of what to do throughout our city to make it more pedestrian, to make these neighborhoods more pedestrian. The Vibe District, we still have a lot of work to do. There's, the challenge that you have is you have private ownership of properties there that, we can't really impact. The people that have property rights, they may or may not want to sell. They may or may not want to make their building better. But slowly people are coming around to get with the program, for lack of a better term, and create something really dynamic there. That is a whole different conversation than Rudy Loop, in my mind. Rudy Loop, last year or 2 years ago, a big, the incumbent was very pro having a park there. Well, so am I. Look, I'm pro having a natural place, the last place that can preserve the surf industry, as well as just a place for locals to go and park and not have the challenges that they face with parking garages and all of that. I'm a big proponent of keeping Rudy Loop a park. And people are going to say, but Nadine, if we do a high-rise thing, or we do a casino, God forbid, or we do whatever, we're missing the opportunity to create huge revenue. All I can tell you is that it's 2020. We live in a coastal city, and it is irresponsible to develop like crazy, because and I hate to quote someone else who runs, but he's right. We are a storm away. We're a storm away from a catastrophe. And more than that, the locals deserve their own place. And Rudy Loop has been that place. It's not really attractive, but it has become the locals' place. And I think we should have that, stay that way, and retain the integrity of the surf people and the folks that just want to go down to the beach on their days off and not deal with parking garages and all kinds of things like that. They pay taxes to be able to do that. My feeling, it should be left alone. Created it into a park, not built on. Maybe a surf museum, maybe something like that, but no high rises. I don't know. How do you feel, Conrad?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question. Conrad, what are your thoughts, man?
I attended a couple of the Resort Advisory Committee meetings, and you've seen some of the renderings that they had, and they were like trying to copy Miami.
Yeah.
It looked good on paper, but some things don't need to be brought forth.
Right.
It has its own surfing history. Yes, it also used to have a restaurant right there.
Right.
The boathouse, not the boathouse. It also had that big old looped thing that represented, I think, a fake skydiving or something like that back in the 90s. Because I used to have a little scrapbook that I did for third grade, Great Virginia Beach things, and that had a wholly different look to Rudy Loop at the time. But circling back to the part about lost revenue because of the opportunity cost of building high rises, we already have high rises at the beach. We have a lot there already at the beach. And plus, we're bringing forth the Dome project. We don't need to make everything at every square inch of the ocean front look like that sort of development, because some things need to be preserved. At least some.
Yes.
Interesting. Hey, so are we ready for the infamous Beach Brothers question?
We're ready to go.
All right. So here at the Beach Brothers,
Yes.
we know that, most people run to change something. They see something they really don't like, and they're here to make a change. But what's good? What's good in Virginia Beach?
Well, it's great because my son loves it so much, guys, that he's staying here. Like, who gets to say that? I mean, it is an amazing place.
Right.
And I'm blessed beyond measure. I didn't grow up in waves. I grew up 34 years ago. I was living in Boston, and before that, upstate New York, and we had lakes and freezing cold. This place is amazing, and I absolutely love it. The people are fantastic. The sunrises and sunsets, my God, like all of that. You cannot beat any of it. I love this place. It can only get better, right? All I'm trying to do is preserve it, right? My reason for doing this is to preserve what is already fantastic about Virginia Beach. And what I am worried about, especially when you watch stormwater get 6 to 15 years behind, that isn't preserving anything. That is wreaking havoc on the residents of the city of Virginia Beach. So my reason for running is to preserve and protect what we have so that my son and his kids can enjoy what I love about this place and why I stayed here.
Okay. Additional connected question.
Yeah.
Where do you like eating, or where do you like shopping, or where do you like spending money here in the great city of Virginia Beach?
So I'm sort of a creature of habit. I mean, I have some favorite restaurants, but they're all over the city. So like, I love Nara Sushi at Independence, and I love Il Giardino at the beach, and I love Scotty Quicks, and I love all these little nooks and crannies of the entire city. There is not one place what is the place? Jose. What's that place?
Oh,
thank you. Yes, like there's all these little places that are so amazing throughout the city. So I'm not a.
I love Mi Casita.
Yes,
on the road.
It's just like Mi Casita's right over there off Rosemont. There's so many wonderful restaurants here. So I love all those things. I'm not a big shopper, guys. I'm not. I love to order online. I'm sorry, but I do have a girlfriend who owns the most amazing store in the Vibe District, Gypsy Soul Boutique. It's an amazing store.
Tell us a little about that.
okay.
That place, you go in there, it's like the size of a kitchen, but you could spend hours in that store. So there's certain little places I absolutely love in the city. But I'm not a shopper.
Okay. Oh, check out Montego's. I know Conrad and I visit Montego's a lot. Montego's Island Grill.
Excellent everyday pasta.
Oh yeah, the Rasta pasta is.
All right, I'm writing them down.
Oh wow, Teresa threw us a softball. She said Harpoon Larry's has the best crab dip in the world.
It's only half a block from where I work, so that's great.
Hi, Teresa.
All right, so back to her hardball.
Okay. She's right.
Oh, you said she's right.
She's right.
Okay.
Right now, we need our business to overcome COVID. The man that would be king needs to open Virginia. Until then, we can't afford public-private contracts nor raise our taxes. Teresa, I'm with you, okay? My feeling is COVID is forcing us to stop, look at what we're dealing with.
I see the other ones.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Rincon Tropical, that part, Rincon Tropical.
Thank you, Luke.
Yeah, and Harpoon Larry's. But her point about
Right.
we need to open up.
She's right. We need to open up. We need to, but more importantly, because I believe we're going to be in a situation with our small businesses, we need to stop in our tracks right now and analyze where we are before we move forward with any public-private partnerships. What was good before COVID may not be good after COVID. We looked through everything with a different lens before March. Everything was looked at differently before then. We are looking at it through a lens now that is foggy. And so to move forward with public-private partnerships right now without really fully understanding our economics in this city would be really irresponsible. You know what? If it's a great idea, it can wait. It can wait until we figure out where we are, where we need to go, and then we can make decisions. That's my feeling.
And we wanted to shout out Luis Cortez III. He's also running for the school board in Virginia Beach. So he's right aligned with the two of you during that race.
He's out there some days at the polls. I see him.
Saw him last night too.
Did you?
All right.
Yes, he did.
At the PMCL Civic League meeting, so it was nice.
Okay. Boricua Mio. All right, brother. So, hey, we had a really good show. Enjoyed having you on tonight. Any last words?
I'm just really thankful to you guys. I'm happy Conrad is out there. Like he can, you too, Seko, you've been there. So you know what we're all going through right now. And
I'll run that race.
And I'll tell you right now with what we're dealing with, the COVID and 30 days of campaigning or at the polls, like this whole early voting thing, I think people haven't really realized the fatigue we're going to have come November 3rd, meaning the volunteers that we count on, they're working overtime, right? Usually it's November 3rd. So I'm going to just personally thank everybody who's supported me through this up to this point and who will continue to do so through November 3rd. So I'm grateful. It's been a really interesting ride so far.
Good stuff. Bro Khan, any last words?
Well, we were able to have Miss Nadine on tonight. I'm glad we were able to keep it positive and literally in the trending of the what's good part, because just like COVID has been bad, we want to get back to good as soon as we. Wasn't that a song, Back to Good from the 90s? In any case, I'm just glad you were able to come on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Vision, because the Virginia Beach needs to know.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for everything you're doing, running to make our city even better. Thank you, Nadine. Woo, Conrad, man. How's that vehicle of yours, bro? How's that vehicle?
It is still matriculating the ball down the field, as Hank Stram would used to say. Getting me to and from, and it's good because it's a Volkswagen that I got from Southern Volkswagen in Chesapeake. Excuse me, 1248 South Military Highway in Chesapeake, Virginia. You want to get yourself a car that you could campaign in very well, then you just need to make sure you go down to Southern Volkswagen, speak to Cynthia Rawlings and Charlie Roy, get yourself a nice little car. Reminds me of what it might be time for, though.
tallyandtwine.com. Yes, that's tallyandtwine.com, where you can find beautiful watches for men and for women, made here in the United States, made here in the great state of Virginia, made in Portsmouth, Virginia. That's right, made in America, made in Virginia, and made in Portsmouth. tallyandtwine.com. Great watches for the men. Look at these beautiful watches. Aren't they nice, masculine, really attractive? And these sexy watches for our beautiful ladies. tallyandtwine.com. This is my favorite watch. This is the watch I personally own. tallyandtwine.com. Made in Virginia, made in America. It's time for you to get a high quality watch from Tally and Twine.
It's time. And it's time to say goodbye to all our family. Okay, I was going to say MICKEYMOUSE. I knew. Showing my age. Hey, good night, everybody. Virginia,
Good night,
we
man.
love you.
This show was brought to you by Positive Vibes Incorporated, our consulting services. We do credit fixes. We do tax resolution. We lend private money and debt consolidation. So if you need some of these services, we're waiting here for you. Credit fixes, tax resolutions, private money, and debt consolidation. Make sure you call Positive Vibes Incorporated. Take care.
Goodbye.